Ribadan Shabsu Demba Devara Sheba Jide Kembe Gebun Due Kalo Gyurwa Lana Meba Lada Minamagi Dumba Sangye Chum Pegewa Shagya Tuba La Chaza Lo Chudu Gyazun Chi Jeba Da Jumba Yanda Zobe Sangye Ribadan Shabsu Devara Sheba Jide Kembe Gebun Due Kalo Gyurwa Lana Minamagi Dumba Sangye Jumden De Pegewa Chudu Gyazun Chi Sheba Rajumba Yantaba Zobe Sangye Ripada Shabsu Demba Devra Sheba Jiden Kibun Due Kalo Gyurwa Lana Meba Lada Minagi Demba Sangye Pegewa Shagya Duba La Chaza Lo Chudu Yazun Chi Que demande sa gente de la combat d'un bol. Ane jigden de na choje son teze keba que la cha. Namda gunga chodo su sanwa yishi yazo serge membo. Chaba jigden sunna lame wa gombo chunye que la cha. Senjo Demba Timen Davishe Sedon Dawa Kyola Chat Dede Geda Seba Sumachi Nyame Kenji Kyola Chat Gombo Tuji Che Dembe Tamji Kembe Demba Sunuma Yunden Gyazu Shin Dijin Shela Chat Salo Tabe Deja Tewa Yewe Nye Son Le Zhe Xin Jingdo Den Dama Cho Gyuro Xi Gyu Che La Cha Za Lo Zhong Len Zhe We Lam Yang Den La Ba Ta La Ra Zhu Xing Ge Dang Ba Yun Den Den Gen Du La Yang Cha Za Lo Wa Che La Cha Za Lo Sum He Cha Cha Za Lo Sum La Da Du Gui Cha Ze Cha Cha Xing Du Gun Ge Zhang Nye Ge Le Du Ba Ye Nam Gun Du Cho Du Te Be Cha Za Lo Mi Cha Xin Ge Wa Pu Su Mu So Pa Ran Je Rang Ge Sem Ne Yong Zu Du De Ne Sang Ge Ten Ba Karma Ra Re Ma Me Da Gyu Ma Se Va Chu Go Da Me La Ma Lo Da Ten Da Tu Je Je Nama De Dra Da Su Nama De Tam Che Se Kwa Go Ba Tom Ne Gyun Ge Tra Dun De Ga Da Na Da Chi We La Pyo Si Be So Le Dro Wa Tro Ra Sho.
Praise to Manjushri.
Chambe yang la cha cha lo kang ge lo de dim ye de da ni da nam da ra se chi ye de ge ji xie se je ni ge tu gra le ba kang da se be se ra ma re me du du nge ke se ve Rozo gun la pu jie da ze ye la chu ju yang den su Zhu dara che zho nyu mo nye lo le ge cha zho zho ze chi Ma re mu se du nge nyu go ji nye jun ze re de De ne da jie sa ju dar se yun den lun zo ge se du Chu da chu da chu ni gen de da le me se chang be yang lang du sen de kyu ji khe ra wa we se da le de mo me ba ra sa ne ga da den ju shung lo do hua yi lo zhi po be nang wa ze du su me do zhama ri ra ba ling xie nian de nian ban di xin du mi de bu wa yin zhu ge nam da xin la zhe ba ra shu Radha Mandala Gamnir Yadayami.
Thank you, please. Next case, Tara the Protection of Wisdom Sutra.
Paba Gunjo Sumla Cha Salon Dige Dage Duba Tuje Na Chum Den De Gyavu Kaba Shagwe Pombere Yelong Ge Gendun Chenpo Dan Chanju Senbe Gendun Chenpo Dan Tabchi Do Shu Den Tien Chum Den De Samu Nangwa Xie Cha We Chu Ye Nam Zhang Ping Yen Zen La Nyom Pra Shu So Yang Te Tse Chanju Senpa Senpa Kabo Jiri Ze Wang Ju Shira Nye Paru Do Shimba Samu Jeba Nila Namba Dashin Pongbo Ngabo Teta Rangshin Ge Dongbara Nambara Dao Tene Sangye Ge Tu Tsetan Denba Shari Pu Chanju Zenba Zenba Shenpo Papa Jiri Se Wang Ju Lan Dige Je Me So Ri Ge Po Kala La Shira Ge Paru Do Samu Jeba Jeba Deba Den Jedara Labara Cha Dige Je Me Badan Chanju Senpa Senpa Papa Jiri Se Wang Ju Ye Tsetan Denba Shari Dade Pula Dige Je Shari Po Rigi Pomo Rigi Pomo Kanla La Shira Ge Paru Do Shimba Samu Jeba Jeba Deba Deda Namba Dawa Jade Pongbo Ngabo Teda Laya Rangshin Ge Dongba Namba Yang Daba Jisu Su Dongba O Dongba Ni Su 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 Le Dongba Ni Shen Ma Yin Dongba Ni Le Yang Su Shen Ma Yin No Ti Shen Du Tsorwa Dan Du She Dan Du Je Dan Nambara Shep Dongba Wo Shari Po Tedran Chu Dam Je Dongba Ni De Si Nye Me Ba Ma Ye Ba Ma Ga Ba Chi Ma Me Ba Chi Ma Dan Che Wa Me Ba Kan Wa Me Ba Tongshebo Deda Vena Dongba Ni La Su Me Sorwa Me Du She Me Du Je Me Nambra Sheba Me Mi Me Na Wa Me Na Me Chi Me Yi Me Su Me Da Me Chi Me Ro Me Rekja Chume Do Mi Ge Kam Me Ba Ne Yi Ge Kam Me Yi Ge Nambra Shebe Kam Ge Pa Do Ya Me Do Ma Re Ba Me Ma Re Ba Se Ba Me Ba Ne Ga She Gaje Sebe Pardo Ya Medo De Jendo Dunge Wadan Kunjun Wadan Goba Dan Lame Yishe Me Toba Mado Ba Ya Medo Shari Po Teta Vena Chanju Sem Toba Mebe Chire Shiran Ye Paru Do Jimba La De Je Ne De Sem La Jiba Me Je Jaba Shinje Lole Shindo Dene Nyang Ele Deve Tara Jendo Duzum Do Namba Shube Sanje Tamje Yang Shirab Je Paru Do Shimba La Tene Lana Yang Daba Zobe Chanju Do Ngombaran Zoba San Yeso Teda Vena Shirab Je Paru Do Shimbe Rigwa Shimbe Nga Lana Mebe Nga Minya Bada Nyambe Nga Dunge Tamje Rabdo Shivra Shib Mezu Bena Demba Sheba Shade Shira Je Paru Do Shimbe Nga Meba Teya Ta Gade Gade Para Samgade Bodhi Soha Shari Po Chanju Semba Semba Teda Shira Je Paru Do Shimba Samola Labara Chao Tene Jumden Den Tinge Ten Tele Shende Chanju Semba Semba Paba Shiri Se Wanjo La Lekso She Chawa Jine Lekso Rigi Po Tede Shen No Rigi Tede Shen De Jidra Kyuge Tenba Shindo Shirab Je Paru Do Shimba Samola Jeba Teje Sheba Namjang Jizo Yerango Jumden Dege Dege Je Ga Zene Tsedan Tenba Sharen Dade Chanju Semba Semba Chenpo Papa Shiri Se Wanju Dan Tamje Dan Denbe Koro Teda Dan Hadan Kama Yin Dan Chizan Jebe Jikden Yerang De Chumden Dege Sumba Lang Bara To Te Ya Ta gade gade parasam gade bode so papa kunjo sum je ga yen dembe do yeme dembe so tam je chire do ba me ba ju je shi wa ju ro je gere don da ja ju shi wa kian dan te wa dan ten ba ru je pe so mon so zha xie de jiang ting de ren de le shou.
Page 14, Refuge and Bodhisattva verse.
San ye zhe dang so ye zhong nama chan zhu ba du da ne jia so jie da ge chu jie ji be so nama ye zhuo la ben zhe san ye zhu ba ra zhuo san ye zhe dang so ye zhong chan zhu ba du da ne jia so jie da ge chu jie ji be so nama zhuo la ben zhe san ye zhu ba ra zhuo san ye zhe dang so ye zhong nama la chan zhu ba du da ne da ge chu jie ji be so nama ye zhuo la ben zhe san ye zhu ba ra zhuo. 하다 라면 메다메 안제 홍보다 제제 라서 최게 샤라 차와체바나 산제 송바 랍도 시신 대변 줄줄바 대다 시게 담배 춘이 지는 들시시 나몰라에게 단로다니 중에 두번 다다미에게 나나 로아 궁에 나나 제자마 탐제에게도 다게 쇠던 오 관계 된전대 와중 가봐 매방게 매방 제바 매방 따 매방 홍아 매방 조 매방 다대 되면 된지면 저번이시 시된바 조배 상제 만나면게 담바대 라차자 로 Okay, so paying homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, and we are going to learn wisdom, what Buddha Shakyamuni has actually showed us in his teaching, and somehow this wisdom is, we actually say, opening the eyes. So somehow, like when we don't have the wisdom, what happens is, it is almost like we are walking around without opening eyes. So somehow, if we don't see the reality, see the truth, then what happens is we will project many things, and so whatever we project, so sometimes it is like a dream. So Buddha also said that everything, every single thing in the whole universe is like an illusion. And another example is also, he said, it is like a dream. And so whatever kind of like we see, and somehow we actually see many things. We are actually kind of like, we have this ability when we have like our physical body and all our senses are active. What happens is we have eyes to see, and then our ear sense, which very active, that we actually hear all the sounds, and then also nose we can smell, and then like a taste that we are very attached to, right? And then like the touch, many times it is like, okay, so even the good temperature, like a good weather, or kind of like that is touch, because we know from the like the different kind of temperature point of view, our body can sense it. So that is our body is sensing it. See now, even in the Heart Sutra, when Buddha said, Su me, Da me, Ti me, Ro me, Rekja me. So this is basically there are 5 objects of the 5 physical senses. And so most of our life, what happened is we rely too much on all these physical senses, because these physical senses is the only thing that we actually function in our day-to-day life. So it is like on the surface, we see all these objects that is encountering our senses. So when when we all these 5 object is sense, and so somehow it is very powerful. The senses are very powerful. So the appearance in our senses is very powerful, because something happens okay, this senses is something helpful and I like it, and then sort of we kind of drawn towards it, right? It's just there's a power to it. There is a very strong power, like a magnet, that it pulls you, right? It just kind of really pulls you into, okay, something that we think this is something good, something beautiful, okay, something that is helpful for me, then we are just kind of totally drawn towards it. And there are things like within the object, like the sutta, tiro, form, sound, smell, taste, and the touch, that things we kind of think that, okay, they are not so useful, they are not so good. In a way, they are a little bit threatening. They are not sort of good for me and harmful for me, sort of like something that we think. Then what happened is we actually pull away from it. So there's two things that is happening in our daily life, right? Something that we pulls into it, something that we pull away from it. So then how we actually let ourselves. So in this drama of the samsara, so in samsara, because these 5 senses are so powerful, that when we actually encounter all these different objects, we kind of think that everything that appears in our 5 senses are actually the ultimate reality. Whatever we see, somehow we actually believe that. So there's a very strong belief. So this is why in the many spiritual journey, the wisdom that we are applying is actually, first of all, we are going beyond that. So beyond that, beyond the 5 senses, so beyond the 5 consciousness that we have, physical senses, there is something more powerful going on in our life. That is the thinking ability, right? We have a thinking ability. So somehow, sometimes, some, what do you call, materialistic, base kind of science, think that everything is kind of part of matter. There is no such a thing called mind, because mind is they try to put that into a part of the brain, okay. So there's kind of they don't tend to go beyond the what do you call, physical reality. So everything should be tangible. Everything should be something that is, kind of like something to be see, something to be, something you can hear, something that you can smell, or something that you can taste, something that you can touch. But in reality, we all know. We don't need any scientific proof that we know that there is something beyond our physical sense that has a thinking ability. Like nobody will say that I don't think, right? We all think, even though you say I don't believe there is a mind beyond our physical reality, but then how come you are saying that? Then they will say because I think so, right? Because I thought so. So there is a kind of thinking ability, right? So this thinking ability is actually, in reality, it is more powerful than the physical sense. All the physical senses, everything that we actually encounter, or when we actually connect. So there is something beyond those physical reality that is actually controlling, right? The controlling is like the belief is very powerful. The mind is actually very powerful. It's because whatever our mind decide, so somehow we will actually go towards that direction. So mind has this kind of like a power to actually make you. And then when we actually go into the mind, so that is actually the first step toward the wisdom. The wisdom, because that is the basis of our wisdom. Where are we going to bring wisdom? Is we are going to bring wisdom in our mind, right? If what is the point of bringing wisdom into our mind? Is because it will open the eyes of your mind. So it is so that is why wisdom eye, we call it. So when we say wisdom eye, we are not talking about the physical, this two eye. So it is wisdom eye, meaning that your mind has an eye, or your mind has an ability to see. So if your mind closed, then it is like your eyes is closed. You don't see anything. So then what happened is it is kind of like it will not see the reality. It will only see your imagination. It will only see your ideas. It will only see your notion. And so it is kind of like this is what I think. This is what it is. And then if you ask, what is the truth? And then final answer is you will say whatever the truth is, whatever I think, right? If your mind is thinking, then just kind of like this is the truth, and then you will come to this kind of like a final decision saying that this is the truth. And then we always ask about the reason. The reason is always coming to this is what I think, or this is what I this is what I have decided to think. So it is like each, there are 7 billion human beings, and we all have a mind, and we all have some sort of theory. And so whose theory? And whose theory is actually correct? So maybe everybody's theory is correct, or maybe everybody's theory is wrong. Right? So what do you think? Because where is our idea? Where is our theory? What is the base of? Where are we basing our theory? Are we basing our theory on wisdom or not? So that is why wisdom is very important. It is base, actually, a base of all the spiritual development. And by seeing this, Buddha Shakyamuni, he taught, like even in our kind of like ordinary level, like if we kind of go into the history of the Buddha, more than 2,500 years ago, right? There was a Prince, Siddhartha, who was born in this Kapilavastu kingdom, and then somehow he spent his life in the palace as a prince until he was 29, and then he wandered to to search for the truth, and that is kind of like our common kind of seeing, ordinary, what do you call, perception, right? The ordinary perception that we see the life of the Buddha like that. And then after 6 years of his lot of effort, sort of like and then like finally he actually showed that, okay, I found the truth, I saw the truth. And then like he spent more than 45 years actually teaching. And all these 45 years, human life, like human years, right? Human years that he spent, if you look at and research, what are the most teaching that he was focused on? What is the really he was focusing on? Then actually he did a lot of teaching on wisdom. Like even these days we have the Wisdom Sutra, Shirjin we call it. Shirjin means Wisdom Sutra. So Wisdom Sutra actually has a lot of collection. Like for example, in the beginning we recite the Heart Sutra, right? Sherab Nyingbo, the essence of the wisdom. And that there is actually even these days what is available is there is a translated from Sanskrit version into Tibetan, like we have a Shijin Bumba, means there is like a 100,000, right? 100,000 verses of Prajna Paramita. So Prajna Paramita. And then there is like a Niti, means 20,000 verses of Prajna Paramita. And then there is like a 8,000 verses of Prajna Paramita. And then also there is like a Prajna Paramita, which is the Heart Sutra. And then also there's like a Prajna Paramita can actually go down in the wisdom teaching. Even like there is a Shirjin Yigechingma, means like a heart, what do you call, Wisdom Sutra, one syllable Wisdom Sutra, or one word. And then what is that? That is ah. Just ah. That's like this word or syllable ah is the Shirjin Yigechingma. So there are many different versions of like the wisdom teaching. So Buddha actually keep teaching sort of like from many different methods. Many different methods. Sometimes he said this, sometimes he said this, just for the benefit of our own understanding. So somehow we have to get it. So, and why did he say that? Why is Buddha teaching? Why is he very, focusing on teaching wisdom? Why he's trying to open our wisdom eye? What is that? Is it like, what is the motivation? What is the intention behind it? Then we can actually understand intention, the motivation behind the Buddha's teaching the wisdom is because it was motivated by compassion. Because he sees that all the suffering that we are experiencing in samsara is actually caused by the lack of wisdom. When there is a lack of wisdom, what happens is we become more ignorant. The more ignorant we become, the more suffering somehow we create. And then we create all this suffering but we don't know that we are creating it. So somehow it is just kind of like you don't know that you don't know. But somehow we think that we know, right? Like knowing is a very interesting word. For example, like something, like if you ask yourself honest question, what do you know? Do you know anything? Just give me one example. Do you know anything? What do you know? Right? And if we don't really analyze it, we think that we know many things. We just kind of, I know this, I know that. This is everything that is just kind of like, sometimes I bring this example saying that just take one flower in your hand, right? Like a red rose flower. You just look at this flower. And then honestly, you ask, do I know this? Whatever I'm carrying in my hand. Do I know this? So if somebody just kind of genuinely asks you, what is this? Do you know? What you will say? The first instinct is like, yes, of course I know. Yes, of course I know this. And then, like, okay, if you know this, then tell me, what is this? So the answer will be what? We will say it's a flower. And then we just keep going on a little bit analyzing what kind of flower, right? And then, oh, it's a rose. It's a rose flower. And then the next question is, how do you know that it is rose? How do you know? Right? Because we are confident that I know this is a rose. But how do you know? How do I know? Then what will we say? Oh, that is just everybody is saying it. We all coming to one conclusion. Like we conclude looking at this object in there, like everybody, you ask this, so majority people will say this is rose. So if the majority people say this is a rose, then it will become a rose. Right? And first of all, is it really a rose? And then, yes, it is a rose because all the people, we will say, right, everybody, that's how I learn. My teacher said this, my parents said this, my neighbor said this, everybody is, and then if someone like who I am asking this question, then you will be outcast. What are you talking? You don't know this? That means you are ignorant. You don't know? And so just with that level, what we say is kind of like we know it. But how confident are you that you really know it? Then our confident level, we don't have a confident level. It's just kind of like most of the time I thought so, it said so, somebody said it, and if somebody said it, then we go back into is that valid? Whoever taught you, whoever said that this is a flower, how much valid you give to that person? Whatever that person said, it is really, that is, right? So then just kind of like, because we know that it is called a rose, so our mind will kind of shut down there, right? We just don't go beyond that. Our mind will be, okay, so what is this? It's a rose flower. And then beyond that, what happened is nothing happens. And then immediately we shut our mind. And that is, is that a wisdom now? That's the question. You just kind of like, like we introduce each other. Okay, so and so, hi, how are you? And we say, I am Rinpoche. And then my name is Rinpoche. And then you assume that, okay, so this is Rinpoche. And then we just go on by saying that if somebody asks you, do you know that person? And they will say, yes, I know. How? because I just know his name. Right? In reality, you don't know where that person coming from. Maybe we know that there's some, and also we just kind of we are not going into the wisdom at all in our daily life. We just kind of, even the knowing thing that we say that if such a thing, it is called something, and we know the name of it, and that is what in the school we teach that. You just go into learning in the book. So it is basically what we are learning is we're just learning a label. What is it called? What is it called? What is the name of this? What is the label of this? And the more you know the label, more kind of different. Like you actually go into the flower, and then it just goes into detail. Okay, this is so and so sort of and this is like, and then you can just take out all the flowers, and then just kind of wanting to know more flower means the detail of the flowers, right? Detail of the flower. So, and then maybe biologically or not biological, chemistry, right? From that, what are the chemicals in that? And also, we kind of think that this chemical, that chemical, but just we don't really know what chemical, what is this. And we just know the name of it. So just knowing the name, what it is called, considered to be knowing, right? And that is not wisdom. That's not wisdom. So that is why in the Prajnaparamita, we always call Sherabki Parudu Chimba. Parchin means Parudu Chimba means beyond. So something to go beyond. So what is beyond? So but just kind of generally, on the conventional level, yes, of course, we have to leave it as it is, right? It is like if I'm holding a rose flower, and so this is a flower, and we cannot say this is not a flower. This is a flower. So it is flower in the conventional reality. Right? It is conventional. Then sometimes it is also very interesting, like a different language, right? Different language. So some, language you call rose flower different. Some different language. So then whatever all the language put together, then it is called this, called this, called this, called this. So then just kind of all these labels are there. So maybe that is also not going beyond the label. So wisdom is we have to come up with just knowing what it is called is not exactly knowing. So what do I have to know? What do I have to know of this flower? And then many times also the language and the words are also a little bit tricky, right? It is tricky. So then when we try to find what is the truth of this flower, and many times we just want to, we kind of we think that, right? We think that to know of this flower is to know about this flower, right? About this flower. About the flower, are we, so when we actually are learning, when we are opening the eyes of the wisdom to know this flower, then are we really wanting to know the flower, or are we really wanting to know about it? So that's a two different thing, I think. Right? Two different things. There's about this flower. So if you know about this flower, then still you don't know this flower. Right? So wisdom is to know that it is, what do you call? Not to know. Sometimes that's a little bit tricky word, right? What do you think? Wisdom is to know that it is not to know. So knowing is a very important part, actually. But in our mundane level, we think that we know many things. They are not wisdom. So that is why we have to go little bit beyond, like beyond what it is. And flower is just an example. Even like as a person, what do you know of yourself? Like, who am I? What am I? We all run our life with this. Like, I want this, I want that. I want to do this, I don't want to do this. It is this is my idea, this is my. So who's that my? And then many times we get actually stuck because these thoughts that we have, and these thoughts that we have, they are very tricky. They are kind of like very tricky. For example, like there will be two different kind of what you call thoughts always come, right? One part of your thought is saying, yes, do it. And then there's another part of your thought, it say, no, don't do it. Right? Like if you're driving on the road, and then you're just kind of like thinking, okay, so and so, I didn't actually call this person for a long time. Then just kind of, I think I should call. And then you're looking at the time and say, oh, no, I think I don't want to disturb that person. Or maybe time is too late. And so kind of like there is a conversation going on within your mind. There's almost like there's two people. Right? It is just like, so you are driving by yourself, you're alone in the car, but there are another two people having conversation, right? This is like one part of it is saying like, hey, why don't you call? And then on the one is saying like, no, don't call, okay? Don't call. It is not good. See, that's like in our daily life, these two thoughts always coming. Yes, go do it. No, don't do it. So there's like a very one side of us that says very strongly saying yes. One side of ourselves is strongly saying no. And then we get confused. So who is saying that? Who is that? Is that like then we identify ourselves with both the person. Right? Both the person, there's a kind of like both the thought that we have, the one that is saying yes, we say, okay, that is also me. The one that is saying no, that is also me. Then we get very confused. To whom I should listen? And then generally people will say, intuition. Listen to your intuition. And then it actually become more harder. Right? Which one is the intuition? The one that's saying yes is the intuition, or the one that is saying no is the intuition. So you have to figure it out, and that's the extra work. Right? So that is so see how much wisdom we need now. We really need the wisdom. It is like this is kind of because we get carried away by both of this. So this is just a thought example. So since morning until we fall in sleep, until we have this conscious, living, then this constant kind of like a fight, right? So there is a big confusion. So what is confusion? Confusion is the opposite of wisdom, right? Because when you don't have a wisdom, what happens is you are confused. So when you are confused, then we do many things that we are not sure. So even we are doing something, but in the back of the whatever we are doing, we are not 100% doing it. Why? Because there is a big no behind it. That our thought that is just underneath it, that's saying no, don't do it. But we are doing it, but then somehow we are not accomplishing. But then even when we don't do it, then there is a very strong kind of underneath it saying that yes, you should do it. Why don't you do it? Make you feel guilty about not doing it. So this is a kind of simple example that if we know what it is, where it is coming from, where this, to who to believe, and where these thoughts are coming from. And if we know, that is the, I would say, progress wisdom. So it's a progressing. Because if you don't know and you just kind of live with it, okay, so I don't care. So far I have been living my life this way. And when there is a fun, I'm just going to have fun. Then when I'm not having a fun, then I'm just going to stay down, right? And I think most of the people kind of don't have a very strong will to generate the wisdom. And so if we don't have a will to generate the wisdom, so then what happens is it's just kind of we are just flowing. Just in samsara, we are just flowing. But when we just let ourselves flow into the samsara, then we bumped into many things. Then like every time we just bump into some rock, then it is just like, what? This is, not supposed to. Why? It is because we are not opening the eyes of wisdom. That is the reason. So anyway, so that is why if we look into the Buddha's history, Buddha put a lot of emphasis on the wisdom. So all the Prajnaparamita teaching is on opening the eyes of wisdom. So it is to making you understand what it is. And so when it, like in the Indian Master Shantideva in his Bodhisattva way of life, and this chapter 9 is very deep actually, just kind of even though it considered that the Bodhisattva way of life is a very simple word that he used, not like many other, there are many other kind of texts that many master has written. And some of the texts are kind of very academic and very difficult to understand, the philosophy and all this behind. And the Bodhisattva way of life is considered that Shantideva has a talent. He has a talent to put the very difficult word into something simple. So he's very known as how to make things simplified. So making it more simple so that everybody can understand. Sometimes, people writing a wisdom, and then sometimes people, some writer makes about the wisdom, and then they make the wisdom chapter so difficult that only himself or herself will understand. Right? And then it is if you write it that way, then it is if other people don't understand it, then what is the point? So Buddha also teach the teach the wisdom, and why did he teach? Why he emphasized so much on the wisdom? Because he has a compassion. So compassion and the wisdom, they should go hand in hand. So that is why generally, how do we know that I am going in the right direction with the wisdom? Is Lama Tsongkhapa actually said, like it's a kind of like a conclusion, sort of very simple. He said, the more wisdom you have, the more compassionate you should become. More loving person you should become. So it is just kind of, because they sort of like affect each other. So it is like the more compassion practice, the more loving kindness practice you are actually in, then it will actually help your wisdom better. The more wisdom you have, it will help your compassion. So that is why wisdom and compassion, they go hand in hand. So how do we know in our individual, as an individual, if you are learning, if you're learning something and then you are generating a wisdom, and the more wisdom you gain, the more actually open-minded you become, the more open-hearted you should become. So it's just kind of like, it is opposite. The more wisdom you learn, the more kind of narrow-headed you become, and more selfish you become. The more kind of like cruel you become. Then that is the sign that you are not going in the right direction. So it should open. It should. So there are no such kind of another sign. Like we should not expect any sign by saying, some flower will come from the sky, or the statue will throw flowers on you to show the sign that, okay, you actually gain some wisdom. But on a mundane level, we are always expecting that, right? It's kind of like we expect, or just kind of like just you expect that, okay, some realized spiritual master will come and just kind of like tap on your shoulder that, hey, good, you did, That's our expectation. We expect like that. That should be some kind of sign. But the real sign of like the spiritual development or wisdom development, so there is no difference between the more spiritual develop there is, the more wisdom developed there should be. Because spirituality is, everything is to do with the wisdom. So if the wisdom part is not developing, that means your spiritual part is not developing at all. Like even though you just kind of go on and meditate on compassion, just kind of keep going on like, okay, I'm going to spend my whole life meditating on compassion, meditating on loving kindness, and not, just kind of like putting any effort to generate wisdom, then I don't know. It will not help you at all. Just kind of like, because you're like, when your wisdom is weak, then, whatever you practice, it's just like when you really kind of face the reality, then because you don't know the reality, what happens is then you lose your temper, right? That is like we have some stories in Tibet, right? Somebody is saying that just they didn't study any wisdom or anything, and then just kind of like knowing that okay, there is a patient practice is very necessary for me and important for me, and then they kind of like just sit, there, and then some kind of like a spiritual monk, who's kind of like genuinely practicing something, and then they want to check, and then they said, what are you doing? And first he asked in a simple way, what are you doing? And then meditating. And meditating on what? And patient. And then he keep asking the question, saying, so what meditation you are doing? And he said, I'm practicing patient. Say it again. And then his voice is getting a little bit louder. Didn't I tell you patient? And no, I didn't hear it clearly. What exactly you are doing? And then he get more sort of like annoyed, irritated. And saying that, I am practicing patience. You don't know? You don't see? And then finally he asked, keep asking the fourth or fifth question. He totally lost his temper and yelling and angry, saying that, don't you see? I am practicing patience. But what do you see in that story? Like, what is he exactly doing? And what is he exactly saying? Right? It's like, he's saying, I'm practicing patience. But he's doing exactly, totally opposite. It's not patient at all. Yeah. But sometimes, when we call ourselves spiritual practitioner, so we think we are practicing spiritual. We are practicing loving kindness. We practice, and then, but we say we are doing this, but in reality, if the third person look at you, maybe not exactly, right? So that is like saying something, doing something, right? So that is kind of like how it is happening is because when you practice, so like say, I'm practicing loving kindness, then somehow without the wisdom, when you actually face the reality, then we just totally forget. Right, we just kind of like it become some sort of like what do you call? I like human beings, sentient beings, but I don't like the people near me. Right, and then we also do like a compassion prayer. May all sentient beings be happy. May all sentient beings be happy. But then in reality, there's one person who annoy you so much. Then it's like as soon as you see this person, not that person. Right? So, like we cannot bring this even loving kindness into real person. But we can become very loving kindness to the idea of the, like sitting in the cave and thinking about all the sentient beings is easy. Because you're not dealing with them. When you come down into the town and you deal with the person and practice love and compassion, then difficult. Right? Difficult because it is just right in front of you. The reality is right there. So what do we have to know? We have to know the reality. Always not to run away from the reality. Sometimes, in the name of spirituality, many times people think that spirituality is all about running away, right? Like isolating from yourself from things. So that's why sometimes people say, okay, I'm going to practice spirituality, and they run away. Away from the home, away from the people, away. And they think that is the practice. But actually, in reality, the Bodhisattva, right? They actually always pray that may I be born, right? May I be born and connect with the people, right? That's not about running away, not about disconnecting. So we have to see the reality. When we see the reality, then our spiritual practice, that is seeing the reality, is the wisdom in a way. That's seeing. So that's kind of like why wisdom and compassion, they kind of go help each other. So the more compassion you are, that means your wisdom is actually developing. The more wisdom you have, the more compassion you will become. So that is how we know that we are on the track or not from the wisdom. So anyway, in this chapter, so it is kind of a little bit overwhelming for to actually understand each of the word, because the Shantideva actually put the original word in, I think he wrote that in Sanskrit, right? And then later it was translated into Tibetan. And then from Tibetan it is translated into English. And then sometime the kind of like it become a little bit hard, because some of the translation, I think no matter how much you try to bring that in the different language, and sometimes it kind of become harder, so kind of like that happens in this one too. So that's why sometime when you don't kind of get the word, it is okay, because just kind of say this is maybe some academic, scholar words that is there. And so there are so many discussion here, right? The question, answer. And that's actually a good way or method to develop the wisdom. Because to develop the wisdom, we need analytical, right? Analytical kind of ability. You have to analyze. And then when, here, Shantideva put it in the question form, and then he answered that, and then it is almost like a discussion, it is like a discussion. So that is why, there are the question that is actually coming from is many different school. So sometime we think that, okay, we have to know where this all question coming from, from that tenets, for example, Vaibhashika, Sautrantika, and then the Vaibhashika is kind of like the Chetamawa, the one, who called the unit, as a ultimate, unit as a ultimate reality or ultimate truth. And then there's a Vaibhashika, which is the Vaibhashika in Dodeba means actually they are the follower of the sutra. So they are more sort of like a follower, following the literal kind of what Buddha has said. So then if you go into this chapter, there is some point that they actually have some kind of discussion, because this Sautrantika kind of like believe whatever they heard, what Buddha has taught, right? So that is valid. And then there are other kind of like a Mahayana teaching, like the Vajrayana and many of the Mahayana teaching. So some of the, I think not all the Sautrantika school holder, but some of the majority of the Sautrantika, they don't believe that Buddha has taught the Mahayana. So it is like whatever a Buddha has taught is the Four Noble Truth. That is what they believe is what Buddha taught. And then, even the Prajnaparamita, I think there is a lot of big question. Because it is a big question. It's natural, actually. Because when Buddha was teaching the Prajnaparamita, that is the Mahayana. And even if you look into the Heart Sutra, what do you think? Like, for example, what is the setup of the, Heart Sutra teaching? In the Heart Sutra teaching, how it actually teaching actually happen is Heart Sutra is not actually taught by Buddha. If you look at the whole set up of the Heart Sutra teaching, the wisdom teaching, it says that Buddha sort of like so story is like the Buddha went in the morning to get his alms, right, to get his meals. And then, they all come back. And then after washing their dishes and everything, they put aside all their, that bowl, and then some of the full clothes or robes that they wear, so they just put it, and then Buddha sit. That is, there is a place called, Vulture Peak Mountain, there is one hill in this place called near the Rajagira. On that hill, Buddha just sit, and then so what kind of meditation he was doing is that profound illumination meditation, right? That is So Buddha was sitting and in meditation, and then he absorbed into the meditation. At that time, there is some of his, disciple, right? So among his disciple, there is a Shariputra, so who is the smartest of all his disciple, very smart, And so Shariputra, his name is, he was there. And then Buddha was sitting in a meditation. Shariputra raised a question. He raised the question. He asked the question. He didn't ask that question to Buddha. Right? Buddha was in the meditation. So to whom he asked? Who is the person? He asked the question. He asked the question to Avalokiteshvara. In Chinese, you say Guan Yin, right? And then in Japanese, Kano-sama. So now the question is, so Kano-sama is there, right? The people sitting there, do they see him? All of them? Do they? Because that Cheresi, the Avalokiteshvara, was he in the form of like human form, or was he in the divine form? Right? He was in a divine form, right? So Shariputra was asking question like there is another human being, right? He asked, Avalokiteshvara, he addressed, hey, Avalokiteshvara, I have a question. And then, Avalokiteshvara answer, right? So most of the Heart Sutra's teaching, right? It is like a all the five aggregates are also empty from its self-inheritance, when he say like that. So Buddha is not saying anything. Buddha was quietly meditating. So there's some conversation going on. Shariputra asked to Cheresi answer. So now this is a situation. Right? So there are, of course there are many Buddhist disciples who will not accept that some, divine beings that is, in the form of some divine figure will be not there. Only gathering there is only the human, right? But in the setup, it says that there is tens of thousands of bodhisattvas are there. So these tens of thousands of bodhisattvas are not recorded in the history, right? In the history, if you are a historian, go back, then just you will say, oh, that's just somebody's illusion. They just maybe hallucinate something, they saw something like that, right? So that is what the Southern Tatika may be. I don't know, if you say this Heart Sutra, is that the teaching of Buddha? What will they say? There is no Avalokiteshvara there, Buddha didn't say anything about the Avalokiteshvara, they will say. Because, this is a bodhisattva, some, existed long time ago. Then how can he come? And see, that is the there is a base of argument there. That's why most of the Mahayana teachings, like the bodhisattvas, Chanju Semba, the bodhisattva like Manjushri, bodhisattva like Cheresi, bodhisattva like Chana Doji, Vajrapani, and, Sai Nyingbo, Siddhikarpa. And, Tripa Namse Namgen Nyingbo, there are 8, main disciples of the Buddha who are not human. They are not human. But they are there, always, when Buddha was teaching. But when Buddha taught that, so maybe there is things going on, on the mundane, ordinary level, Buddha was doing something. And then on the another dimension, there is something going on, which a human being cannot. Like human being cannot actually, see or experience. So maybe some human being who has an ability, like a Shariputra, maybe they can actually experience. But that is the big question. That the question, like if in the real history, right? It's not in the story way, right? Then, what, just kind of like if you look, Buddha was a human, right? He's a human being, and he has many human disciples who are monk, and all these human. But among all these human, there is like some divine Bodhisattva. So this Vaibhashika tenet actually will not accept. They are more sort of like what we see, what we hear of Buddha, what he was doing, that is what it is. And we don't go beyond that. Buddha, so maybe that is why they say that Mahayana teaching didn't happen. It is just all made up. And I don't blame them. That's, and then when it actually comes to the Vajrayana, it is more than that. Right? In the Vajrayana, there are there are many Mahayana who actually don't agree that Buddha has ever taught Vajrayana. They think that Buddha never taught Vajrayana. This is like just kind of like all these things, Tantrayana, or, all these things just later some, mix up with the Hindu, Tantra, and then mix, and then it become like, so some people, some, school, actually some Buddhist school, they don't accept that at all. So these actually issues were also, Shantideva raised this, not about the Vajrayana, he talks about the, Mahayana. So how did these are kind of little bit inconceivable. So these are some of the things maybe in the wisdom chapter when Shantideva said, it is a kind of little opening eye, so that is kind of like when we read the Heart Sutra, we never question that, right? We always just think, okay, this is just what happened, because it is so, okay, there must be jealousy there. But in reality, is it really happened that way? So, it happens. Why? Because he was on the another dimension. Right? In the another dimension, there's like all these bodhisattvas gathered there. And so this question. Then another important thing about this is these bodhisattvas are there, and the Shariputra was asking this question to Cheresi. And who is Cheresi? Compassion aspect of the Buddha, right? That's what we say. So if you look at that, then Shariputra represent the wisdom. Cheresi represent the compassion. So this is something to take within ourselves too. The wisdom, the significance of the wisdom. Shariputra, who knows, and he's considered to be the most smartest student of the Buddha, has a question. Means he doesn't know. Right? When you have a question, means you don't know this. That's why you're asking question. So somehow, wisdom aspect doesn't know, and he's asking who? Compassion. So this is something to bring in ourselves also. Because wisdom, even though we have a wisdom, so our wisdom When we awaken our wisdom, wisdom should ask the compassion. And the compassion has an answer. Compassion has answer. So the wisdom don't totally rely on the wisdom. So the wisdom rely on compassion. And then compassion also go with the wisdom. So that's why compassion and wisdom hand in hand. Even when we look into this, what do you call the essence of the wisdom teaching, or called the Heart Sutra. Like many of us, we recite the Heart Sutra in our daily life basis, right? And we respect the Heart Sutra as okay, this is one of the essence of the Buddha's, wisdom teaching. And so we actually go into understanding it. There are so many different facts that we need to understand, and we need to open ourselves, because in the general level, then how comfortable are you to accept that the Chenresi was there, right? Chenresi, the Bodhisattva Chenresi was there. So if you cannot put that thing, the Chenresi is not there, then the Heart Sutra will not happen. Right? So that is why there's this kind of a question that comes from the Vaibhasika is a very realistic question. That's what I think. Yeah. Okay, so I think should we go a little bit into the words of this translation? So where we left last time? 34, right? The creator of this illusion has not abandoned the tendency of disturbing conception. Oh yeah, so that is even just understanding that it is the illusionist, right? The magician creates something beautiful, and then they can get attached to the one that they have created. So even though they know that it is not real, then how come they have this knowing that everything is like an illusion? How can that help, right? That's the question. And so Shantideva actually go on saying that it is just an example, but in reality, to be able to understand, you have to understand the emptiness nature, right? The emptiness nature, how thing doesn't exist as it is from itself. So not only understanding that appearance is just a difference between appearance and existence, I think that is not enough wisdom. So that is what actually saying. That is not enough wisdom. We have to go more deeper understanding that to actually establish that it is like an illusion. So the illusion, it is like illusion, but whatever it is, that it is it is not there. It is whatever my attachment sees, it is not how it is. So that is the more deeper level of understanding the emptiness is not inherently exist. So that is what Shantideva is saying. And then the question, if there were this case, then he would not reflect, I shall do this. How could Buddha act for the benefit of others? So this question is very interesting, because now it is saying that Buddha, when you become enlightened, so you don't have a conception, right? So you don't have a conception. So if you don't have a conception of kind of thinking oh, I should do this, I should not do this, so or that is so this question is actually a very interesting question, because so Buddha doesn't have, for example, enlightened being, right? The enlightened being they don't have a karma, right? They don't have a karma because their all karma is actually what do you call? They actually karma seva means kind of like all abandon, or they don't create a karma. So that doesn't mean that they don't have action, right? What do you think? Buddha, like after you become enlightened, then there is no karma. And so like a Buddha do something, right? Say Buddha do something good. There's no question of Buddha doing bad, right? So no harmful thing. But that's also like sometimes we have a question about that. Like, sometimes Buddha did something and then he can get criticized. What do you think? Right? There will be some people who don't like how he was doing. And so then Buddha actually did that, but then those people don't like it, criticize it, and when they don't like it, what happens is they suffer, right? They suffer. Maybe, say for example, somebody get angry to enlightened being, right? They get angry to enlightened being, and so they create a bad karma. So is it caused by Buddha or not? Right? Was it caused by Buddha? Because Buddha said something and then they heard it and then they said that, I don't like it. And for even like if Buddha is walking down the street and somebody look at him and then they don't like it, they create bad karma, right? So this bad karma that created, was it caused by Buddha? So if Buddha was not there, this karma will not come, right? So somehow he is going there, and then like sometime in the debate we do also like a Buddha has this form and he's walking in the field, and there's so many bugs like ants. If he walks on one of those, will all these ants get killed or not? That's another question. Right? So there's like a and then so because like on the ordinary level, like on the mundane level, right, Buddha has a ordinary body. That fact cannot kind of deny the fact. But this is kind of interesting question, like for like a Buddha have a thought, no intention. So then if Buddha doesn't have an intention, so I should help this, I should not help this, then how come whatever he is doing, how come it is all becoming beneficial? But when I look at this question, it is a very deep question actually, because it is because like understanding. But sometimes like enlightenment is scary for some people, because like we always say, I want to become enlightened, but then not really knowing what is enlightened, then they think that enlightenment is just some sort of like somebody who doesn't have any feelings. Right? Who doesn't have any feelings. They just kind of like, if someone says good to you, they are like, haha. If someone say good, bad things to you, again, good things to you, then haha. So you think that that is the enlightened, right? And sometimes people take that as a kind of like, okay, so there is no idea, there is no like a concept of self, there is no sense of self. Then then what do you become? Like so, sometimes it is kind of like a little bit scary for people. I also remember one time, a long time, I told this story too, when I was doing my book tour, on the back tour to enlightenment, and so this word is there, enlightenment, and somebody came and asked this question And then he said, enlightened must be something good, but I don't want to become enlightened, he said. I was like, oh, okay. And then, suddenly I always, that's why. Why you don't want to become enlightened? And then he said, because I have a family to take care. And that's a legit question and legit reason, I think, because he thinks that enlightenment means somebody who doesn't do anything, right? And then how can you actually take care, if I'm just sitting there simply like like some, very comfortable, like just like took some kind of substance, and they're so peaceful, not doing anything. That is the idea of enlightenment many people have. They think enlightenment is something like that. And because of that, some people like it, some people don't like it. Some people like it because they want it to be like that. They just kind of like, okay, life is too crazy, it is too hard, like, I don't really want to do this, is too overwhelming. What I just wish to do nothing. Right? It's just like, don't want to think about anything. This kind of, that is why many times people use substance too. Because they don't want to think. They don't want to do anything. And so this is kind of like sometimes we put enlightenment is like that. What do you think? Enlightenment is like that? Again, that's not enlightenment, right? Enlightenment doesn't mean not doing anything. Then again, on the contrary side, does enlightenment means doing all the things? Right? That's again not, right? So for example, when you become enlightened, you just have so much responsibility of all the people's happiness. So consider, you have so much responsibility, right? So you have so much responsibility because you wanted to help all sentient beings. To be able to help all sentient beings, you should be very busy, right? You should be everywhere. Right? Everywhere is sentient beings, and everywhere you should be. So then now, like from this level, when we actually even think of enlightenment, what is the state of enlightenment? We are not so sure. Right? Like, what is it? So that actually is also difficult. That is also, we need a wisdom. Like to be able to know the enlightenment, what is that we want? Then again, we need a wisdom. We need to understand. So I think this question is like when you think this is not a simple question, it is. If there were the case, so I shall do this. How could Buddha act for the benefit of others? There's no intention. That means how is he helping? So this answer, I don't know. We'll get the real answer. So answer is wish-fulfilling trees and wish-granting gems, right? Although they have no conceptual motivation, completely fulfill hopes because of their own power and the merits accumulated by people. Likewise, through the force of both the purity of the disciples' mind and the prayers of Buddha, makes to work for their welfare while he is a Bodhisattva. The physical body of a conqueror appears and benefit is forthcoming. So that's little inconceivable. Do you get the answer? Do you see what, do you understand what actually Shantideva is saying here? He gave an example, right? Wish-fulfilling jewel. Wish-fulfilling jewel. Wish-granting gems. Yishin nugu paksam shing. And again, is there something kind of like wish-fulfilling jewel like that? That means it is it maybe it's in the story or in real? Like there's something kind of jewel that you wish something and then your wish will come. So it is kind of like the Aladdin lamp. Right? You can make a 3 wish and your wish will come. But the Aladdin lamp is only 3 wish, right? So the Buddhist precious wish is like a forever. Anything that you wish will manifest. Yishin Nobu. Yishin means wish fulfilling. Then that is, again, I don't know. If there is a really wish fulfilling jewel like that, how we think. Maybe it is called the wish fulfilling jewel, right? The wish fulfilling jewel. Or there's like something like really, so that is, I don't know. And again, wish fulfilling. Sometimes when I really think of wish fulfilling, it's very dangerous. What if all your wishes fulfilled? Right? Like if everybody's wishes fulfilled, the world will be disaster. Right? Like not all people even. If somebody, right, if someone's wishes is actually fulfilled, like out of 7 billion people, if one person's wishes is totally fulfilled, but that's kind of like it will not, right? It will not. It will not. Do you know anybody in this whole world that has totally their wishes fulfilled? I don't know. Right? But still, we are wishing to become that person. Right? We all want. It's just like I want my wish to be fulfilled. I want my wish. It's just kind of like there is a one English saying, right? Be careful what you wish for. Because it is, why did it say be careful? Because we wishes many things. And all our wishes is kind of like contradict each other. You know, it's contradicts each other. So that is why maybe it is good that there is no wish fulfilling jewel. And so anyway, I don't know. So this verses 35, think careful. But this is a good example. So example is, he gave an example. When he gave an example, he didn't mean that it is there, right? Because he is talking from a cultural point of view. Because he is in India, right? 8th century master. In that culture, they have some stone or jewel that is like something that, what do you call? There's a story like that there is a wish fulfilling Ishinobu, Norbu, which means some kind of jewel that is protected by the Naga. So there's a story like that. So this very kind of wish fulfilling jewel, if you get it, that then if you put that on the like a table and then you wish, and your wish will be granted. And but to able to get it so difficult because there is a one main snake that is protecting it. Okay, so this wish fulfill, and then there's one main snake, the mother snake, and then there are so many on the way to get there. There's like so many snakes. But when I see this kind of story, it's kind of metaphor. Right? It's a metaphor. Because this, like the snake is kind of like a, what do you call, protecting it means kind of greed and jealousy thing, ready to poison. but so much kind of overprotecting. And so maybe this is in the form of story, but if you take that in reality, maybe, I don't know, what is that? What are, like, where is the wish fulfilling jewel? But anyway, that is, the story is there, so people believe that that is real. So he is talking about this wish fulfilling jewel, even though they don't have a mind in it to fulfill it. How does it work? Because if you pray something, then it will give you, right? But that doesn't have any thought, because it's just a stone. So I don't know. So this is when I think it from a realistic point of view, then a little bit difficult to to grasp. So anyway, so this is an example that he gave. And then question, since the prayer of Bodhisattva ceased when he attained Buddhahood, so say if he doesn't have a thought, right, after becoming a Buddha, then Bodhisattva become a Buddha, so then he doesn't pray, right? Before he become Buddha, he was praying. But after he become a Buddha, he doesn't pray. Then wouldn't it be impossible for them to have an effect at that time? So answer is, for example, although the Brahmin Sanku passed away long time ago, the Garuda reliquary, which he consecrated with the force of his mantra, is still able to neutralize poison. So this is actually another story, like in that, in that culture, there is a story like that. So similarly, the reliquary of conqueror's body, Buddha's body, is formed in accordance with his actions and prayers when he was a Bodhisattva. Although the Bodhisattva has now passed beyond sorrow into the non-abiding nirvana, and his conceptual desire to accomplish the welfare of others has ceased, he still accomplishes all that is of benefit for them. So, so this is another kind of like interesting in the Bodhisattva way of life. Also, Master Shantideva, sometimes he pray like that, right? May I be the bridge, may I be the ground, may I be. So, that is kind of like a very Bodhisattva, and that is His Holiness Dalai Lama. He said that, this prayer that, Master Shantideva made is a very, very, touching and, real. And it makes him also understand more. So it is kind of like Bodhisattva prayer are very, very interesting, right? So it is kind of like, may I become the tree who wish to have a shade. May I become the bridge who wants to cross the bridge, and that, may I be that, may I be the water. If somebody is really thirsty, and, may I become the water and quench their thirst. So, when you pray like that, is that realistic or not? What do you think? You pray, may I become a tree. Will you become a tree? Is that possible? Or may I become the water? So see, that is interesting, understanding, right? If you, from our mundane way of thinking, how can I actually become a tree? How can I become how can I become a water? How can I become a bridge? How can I become a boat? Right? But Bodhisattvas are praying like that. So what do you think? Their prayers are legit, or it's just unrealistic? But it is realistic. Realistic in what way? How it is realistic? So that actually has a very powerful meaning behind that. Just kind of, if you look at the surface, it is like, okay, this is just a nonsense prayer. That you will never become a boat, but then still you're wishing to become a boat. You will never become a water, but you are wishing to become a water. So if the Bodhisattva's prayer are like that, then how does that the what do you call, the result of that prayer, how it will happen. So this is kind of like it is like this, in these verses actually is bringing up all these things. Also a different understanding level, I think. Very higher level of understanding. So anyway, so I think we will just kind of leave it here and reflect on this. Reflect on these prayers and this debate of the Master Shantideva, which will bring more insight into your understanding and wisdom. All right? Yeah. So today we will stop here. Kanshubha Teta Tamje Chalen La Pema Chine Yanka Din Yongwara Shu Dagi Jinye Sabe Gewa De Tenda Androwa Kunla Kampe Kebran Jizun Lopsan Trabaye Tembe Ningbo Ringdu Seje Sho.
Page 5, short mandala offering at the bottom.
Choeje me do Dharma Rira Linje Ninde Yembande Sanje Shindo Mide Buaye Drogun Namda Shinla Chobarasho Idamo Guru Readaya Me.
The back page, the last page.
Ma kya ban kya kya nyam ba yu be cho teni nyin je chen be ye ra gyo ba ye pen de se wa che ba sho me be dun ba dang je wa din da la me tin yen be Gewa de yang zhou wa ma le pa, xie nye tang be zin be gyu ru no. Ra we go we xin gang de, pe dang de wa ma le zhong le ne. Che re se wang den zin jia su yi, xia be se de pa du den gyu ru ji. San so dan be su gu yi dun be yun zo mon re san me pe gu zhong ba la da me den be du shab de sho sim je tam je de dan den gyu ro ji nyen ro tam je da du tong wa ta Chanju senpa kana su shu pa te da gun ge mo laman dru gyuru chi Rinpoche ma ke pa nama ke gyuru chi ke ba nyang ba me ba yang kone kondu